Shinigami is a character from the video game Master Detective Archives Raincode. She's a major character, basically acting as a secondary protagonist. Through their pact, she's always attached to the main protagonist Yuma and follows him around everywhere. Shinigami's main feature is her ability to access the mystery labyrinths. These are used throughout the game to solve the various murder cases that Yuma encounters and investigates. She's the source of his amnesia because he gave up his memories in exchange for access to her powers. Despite her many insults and snide remarks, Shinigami always supports Yuma and tries to help him become a better detective. She is vital to the game and its story, and she even undergoes a nice bit of character development. Let's hop right in and take a closer look at Shinigami. The origin of Shinigami's name is pretty simple. It comes from the gods of death in Japanese mythology. This is extremely fitting because Shinigami is literally a death god, as described by herself. Within Japanese folklore, Shinigami are actually a more recent aspect. They didn't come around until the 18th or 19th century, so they're a bit of a newer addition to mythology. They're greatly influenced by ideas of the Grim Reaper in Western folklore. In general, they're not viewed as frightening or malevolent beings, and instead they're seen as just a natural part of the life cycle. The Grim Reaper comparison is very appropriate. At the end of the Mystery Labyrinth, Shinigami reaps the soul of the culprit, or souls of the culprits if there are multiple, and this results in their death. In the Japanese version of the game, Shinigami has the honorific Chan attached to her name. This honorific is most often used for children or young girls. It sort of expresses that the speaker finds someone endearing. I assume Shinigami gives herself this honorific when she introduces herself, though. This would match with her personality since she has a habit of calling herself cute. Overall, Shinigami's name is about as fitting as it could possibly be. Shinigami has two designs, one for her ghost form and one for her true form, which is more human-like. Her ghost form is small and purple and has a bit of a cartoonish look. There's a sort of wispy appearance that you might associate with cartoon ghosts. The color purple is often associated with royalty, magic, and mystery, all of which are very fitting. Shinigami loves mysteries, seems to have magical abilities, and she always wears a crown like she's royalty. Speaking of her crown, the one she wears in her ghost form has a single pink jewel in the middle. Pink symbolizes love, nurture, and compassion. She's possibly implied to have feelings for Yuma, and she also nurtured him to become a better detective. Shinigami only appears in her true form after she opens a mystery labyrinth. She looks far more human in this form, although her penchant for levitating and the horns on her head make it very clear that she's not human. In her true form, Shinigami's eyes are pink with a four-pointed star design. A four-pointed star specifically is a symbol of truth, hope, and spirit. The truth aspect applies because of her ability to solve mysteries with the labyrinths. Her crown also has more jewels in her true form, including one more pink one and two yellow ones. Yellow represents joyfulness, happiness, and energy. Shinigami is a very energetic and cheerful person, even to the point of making jokes when they're not appropriate. Shinigami's dress has a rose pattern. Roses share some symbolism with other aspects of her design, such as royalty and love. Roses are also known for having sharp, pointy thorns in addition to their beauty, which could be tied to the more ruthless aspects of Shinigami's personality. Finally, there are Shinigami's horns. These are like bigger versions of the horns she seems to have in her ghost form. Horns can be symbols of strength, power, and, most fittingly for Shinigami, death. Personally, I really like Shinigami's designs. Her ghost form is really cute and funny, and her true form is really cool. She's definitely used for fan service quite a bit, but it never really bothered me, and it definitely fits with her cheerful and flirty personality. Shinigami is very talkative and witty. She often has some kind of snide or sarcastic comment or remark to make about things. She cracks jokes about things that happen, or whatever Yuma looks at. Through her jokes, she serves as a bit of comedic relief throughout the game. However, she often makes such remarks when it's not appropriate to do so. On the plus side, Shinigami does learn to acknowledge when this is not okay. In Chapter 4, after Yako has been stabbed, Yuma beats himself up over being unable to prevent it from happening. Shinigami makes a joke about him still being a trainee, but this only upsets him even more, so she apologizes. In this same chapter, after Yako dies, she even tells Yuma she'll leave him alone for a little while so he has space to grieve. Shinigami is also rude, mean, and insensitive. She's often hostile towards other people, including the other detectives. She has a habit of giving people ill-natured nicknames such as Hellara, Flatty, or the anemic vampire. While the other detectives are in the mystery labyrinths, she has no problem with acting rude towards them. She gets along especially poorly with Desuhiko and Fubuki. Along with her rudeness and hostility, ability, Shinigami seems to become jealous very easily. This is most notable in chapters 2 and 3. Not so coincidentally, these are also the chapters where she is at her most annoying. She has a lot of rude things to say about Kurumi and Fubuki, and she doesn't like it when Yuma interacts with them. Shinigami has a curious and adventurous attitude. She feels no hesitation or fear about entering the mystery labyrinths despite the danger that is inherent to exploring them. She loves mysteries and trying to solve them. This is what causes her to drag Yuma directly into the Nailman murders in chapter 1. Because she is a death god, Shinigami's sense of morality is heavily skewed compared to humans. She's interested in dead bodies to a weird degree, and she doesn't find death to be that big of a deal. She especially feels no sympathy for the deaths of criminals. Shinigami isn't totally incapable of compassion, though. She genuinely tries to help Yuma at times, and in chapter 4, she gives Yako a more peaceful and merciful death than the other culprits. She also saves Yuma's life at the end of chapter 5, even though she knows it will end their pact and cause him to lose all of his memories of her. Shinigami is a death god, and according to her, she was sealed in the Book of Death. Though this is never elaborated on, this seems to imply that she wasn't always in the book. The Book of Death was kept in the WDO's vault, and we never learn how it ended up there. We're just told that it was kept deep within the vault, which seems to imply that it was there for a long time. Her status as a death god explains a lot of her traits. It allows her to access the mystery labyrinths and the powers she has within them. It may also be the reason for her intuition about other people. She immediately has a bad feeling about Yomi upon seeing him for the first time, and she's heavily suspicious of Makoto. It's possible for someone to access Shinigami's powers through a pact like the one that Yuma made with her. This makes him the only one capable of seeing and interacting with her. The sole exception to this is Vivia, whose connection to the spiritual realm allows him to perceive her, though he can't see her clearly unless he uses his forte. In chapter 0, Shinigami says that making a pact with her shortens someone's lifespan by a lot, and then doesn't elaborate. It's entirely possible she's being serious, but it could also be a reference to Death Note. In Death Note, obtaining the Shinigami Eyes ability requires making a deal with a Shinigami that causes someone to lose half of their remaining lifespan. Such a reference wouldn't be surprising because Shinigami makes a lot of jokes and references about other pieces of media. Also in chapter 0, Shinigami states that she is the only one that can interact with the mystery labyrinths. She also says she's just always been able to do it, so she no longer remembers how. In chapter 5, though, she makes a remark that implies other death gods exist. Either she was mistaken in chapter 0 and other death gods can access the mystery labyrinths, or other death gods have different powers. Shinigami herself does not create the mystery labyrinths. They just form naturally from unsolved mysteries, and she's capable of accessing them. She describes them as an alternate universe different from the real world where the mysteries originate. With the mystery labyrinths, there are some pretty obvious and heavy influences from the palaces in Persona 5. I feel like if you've played Persona 5, you can see that very easily. Although she can access them, Shinigami doesn't automatically know the answers to the questions that appear in the mystery labyrinths. She even gets things wrong at times, like in chapter 3 when she claims Shachi's death was a suicide, but she does often have an idea of how the labyrinths work and how to progress through them. Shinigami loves mysteries, but she dislikes the mystery labyrinths. She says their continued existence can cause problems in the real world, and so they must be destroyed. When she summons them, she usually says, "Arise, vile mystery labyrinth." She does leave out the word vile in chapter 5, although I'm not sure why. At the end of each mystery labyrinth, Shinigami reaps the culprit's soul. This is often a very dramatic and explosive event, but there is one exception. A core aspect of Shinigami's character is her very black and white view of criminals. She despises them and believes people who commit crimes, especially murder, deserve no sympathy or mercy. This sets her apart from Yuma, who often feels sympathetic for the culprits and deals with guilt about their deaths. Her hatred of the mystery labyrinths and the damage that they could cause if left alone could contribute to her hatred of criminals. Because criminals cause mysteries, they indirectly create mystery labyrinths, and those cause issues if not destroyed. The exact nature of these problems is never elaborated on, though, so we don't know exactly what will happen if a mystery labyrinth is left alone. The way Shinigami views criminals is where most of her character development is rooted. Throughout most of the game, she feels no sympathy for the culprits. As seen in chapter 2 especially, she doesn't care about the reasons why someone might have committed murder. She believes they deserve to die for what they did regardless. However, this most notably changes in chapter 4. She still reaps Yako's soul, but rather than completely destroying him like she usually does, she embraces him and lets him fade away peacefully. She admits after that she was attached to him in some way, and she was maybe more merciful towards him because of this connection. This change persists into Chapter 5. In most of the previous cases, Shinigami would push for Yuma to finalize the case and reap the culprit's soul, but she doesn't do that in Chapter 5. She doesn't try to convince him to pick the option of reaping Makoto's soul and destroying the Mystery Labyrinth. Instead, she lets him decide whether he wants to do that or sacrifice himself to keep the truth hidden. Based on most of her previous actions, especially her disregard for the motive of the culprits in Chapter 2, you would expect Shinigami to absolutely hate Makoto and believe he should die and pay for his crimes. But even she acknowledges it's not that simple this time around, and maybe her compassion for Yako as he died contributed to the change in her attitude. When Yuma decides to let Makoto destroy the Mystery Labyrinth from the outside by revealing the truth, Shinigami goes along with it. She doesn't seem to have much of an issue with letting Makoto go free rather than killing him. This is a pretty clear sign that she has shifted her views on criminals and the reasons behind their actions. I personally suspect that Shinigami is deeply lonely. She presumably slept for a long time before Yuma, or Number 1, awoke her to make a deal with her. Through flashbacks, we see her swear she'll train Yuma into a proper detective after he loses his memories. She's constantly devoted to that task, even mentioning it multiple times and seeming proud of him at points. Both literally and metaphorically, Shinigami is very attached to Yuma. Their pact prevents them from being too far from each other. As mentioned before, she easily becomes jealous and wants Kurumi and Fubuki to stay away from Yuma. Despite often insulting Yuma for relying on other people for help, she wants him to rely on her. It's definitely hypocritical of her, but I think that might be the point. She's not exactly meant to be the nicest, most pure character in the game. I think all of this makes a lot more sense if you view Shinigami as being incredibly lonely. If Yuma was the first person she interacted with in a long time, it makes sense that she would become so attached to him. We see through her personality that she's very energetic, cheerful, and talkative, which could make her prone to feeling extremely lonely if she's left alone for a while. The loneliness could be further compounded by the fact that Yuma is the only one that can see and interact with her because of their pact. Even though there are plenty of other people around, she can't talk to any of them. She's quite literally a ghost to everyone except Yuma. At the end of Chapter 5, Shinigami provides Yuma with the emergency exit so he can get out of the Mystery Labyrinth after letting Makoto go. As his only other options are to kill Makoto or die in the Mystery Labyrinth, this action saves both of their lives. Shinigami tries to act like she's unbothered, but she's clearly upset about having to say goodbye to him. She even kisses his cheek before he leaves. After he leaves, she says she's not sad and she's used to being alone, but being used to it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Once she's on her own again, Shinigami has two options. She can either return to the Book of Death and go back to sleep, or remain in the Mystery Labyrinth and vanish with it, which would kill her. Her final decision is left unclear. We, as the players, don't know what she chose to do. Regardless of Shinigami's decision, Yuma left the Book of Death with Kurumi and told her to hold on to it until he returned for it. Kurumi then brings the book with her when she sets out to find him. Shinigami is a roller coaster of a character. She's funny, but very annoying in chapters 2 and 3. I eventually learned how to tune out some of her more irritating remarks, though. I had to make a bit of an effort to like Shinigami through how annoying she could be, but chapter 4 just put her in my good graces forever. It's been like a year since I played this game, and I still cry every single time I see her hug Yako. I both love and will never forgive Chapter 4 for how it emotionally wrecked me. It was nice to see Shinigami's development and how she truly does care for some people close to her. The moment she encouraged Yuma when he felt hopeless in Chapter 5 and didn't know what to do was also really cool. If Raincoat ever gets a sequel, and I'm personally pretty neutral on whether I want it to or not, then it would be nice to see Shinigami again, or at least to learn what she chose to do at the end of the game. She can be annoying at times, but she's ultimately a character that I love very, very much. I hope you found this analysis of Shinigami interesting, and I'd love to know what you think of her and this video. At this point, there's only one more Raincoat character I need to make a video on, and that is Yuma. So if you're interested in that, then stick around for it, because it shouldn't be that long before it goes up. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and have a good day.